You know, most of us have a really complicated relationship with money, don't we? We're taught to chase it, to be scared of it, maybe even to resent it. But what if all of those beliefs are just wrong? Today, we're going to completely reframe how we think about money. We're not treating it as the goal, but as something way simpler and honestly a lot more powerful.
Okay, let's start with a statement that just cuts right through all the noise. Money isn't good, it isn't bad, it doesn't have a moral compass. This single idea is the foundation for everything we're about to get into. It is not the prize at the end of the race.
So here's the absolute heart of it. Money is just an inert instrument. Think of it like a magnifying glass. It takes whatever you already are, your habits, your fears, your ambitions, and it just makes you more of that. It amplifies who you already are, your core intent.
To really get this, we're going to walk through 5 key ideas. First, we'll define what this tool actually is. Then, we'll look at the dangers of using it the wrong way. Third, we're going to bust the myth of what financial freedom really is. Fourth, we'll get super practical about how to use the tool correctly. And finally, we'll talk about the mindset shift that really changes the whole game.
All right, part 1. What are we actually holding in our hands when we hold money?
Let's try to think of money as frozen effort. See, it's not just paper or numbers on a screen. It's a real, tangible placeholder for someone's time, the risks they took, the work they put in. It's stored energy, just waiting for you to point it in a direction. To make this crystal clear, let's just think about a different tool for a second. A hammer. You would never, ever worship a hammer, right?
You wouldn't be afraid of it. You wouldn't let it dictate your emotions. You definitely wouldn't build your entire sense of self around owning the best, shiniest hammer.
And here's the most important part. You wouldn't confuse polishing the hammer with the actual work of building the house. Money works the exact same way. It's the means, never the end. And this brings us right to our second point. If money is just a tool, while misusing it, like any powerful tool, can be incredibly destructive. This is such a critical distinction. Wealth doesn't suddenly make someone greedy or reckless. What it does is act like a diagnostic tool, shining a super bright light on the internal weaknesses and the unresolved issues that were already there all along.
The corruption, the real damage, happens when we start treating this tool as something more. When it becomes our identity, a way to keep score against other people, a source of validation, or worse, a substitute for actual skill and character. That's when the tool starts to warp the user.
Think about it like this. Money just flows toward your loudest internal demand. So if you desperately crave approval, you won't suddenly feel secure with more money. You'll just start using it to buy hollow admiration.
And if your deepest fear is loss, money won't make you feel safe. It'll just amplify that fear, causing you to hoard it obsessively.
And hey, if you don't have a clear purpose, a big bank account's not going to give you one. It's just going to finance a more expensive and aimless drift through life. This leads us right into our third section, which tackles one of the biggest myths out there, this whole illusion of financial freedom.
Look, money can support freedom for sure, but it cannot create it. True freedom, that's an internal state. It comes from self-awareness, from discipline, from having skills you can take with you anywhere, and from being independent of any one system. People who rely only on money to feel free, they are always going to panic the second the market shifts.
Okay, so if money is a tool, how do we actually use it correctly? Let's, open up the user's manual. There's a huge difference between using money strategically and using it emotionally. On the one hand, strategically, you use it to buy back your time, to remove obstacles, and amplify systems that you already know are working. On the other hand, emotionally, you use it to buy an identity, to chase status, to avoid personal growth, or just to silence your inner discomfort. Now, seeing money as a tool doesn't mean you ignore it. It is the absolute opposite. It means you treat it with respect, like a professional craftsman. You track it, you give every dollar a specific job, you check in regularly to make sure it's doing that job, and you correct course the second you see it's being misused. This is about control, not neglect. And here it is. This is the ultimate test. If earning or managing your money forces you to compromise your character, to lie, to rush, to betray your standards, then you have lost control. The tool has become your master. And that's the boundary you can never, ever afford to cross.
And that brings us to our final section, the profound liberation, the real freedom that comes from this mindset shift. When you're obsessed with money, your primary question is always this one, isn't it? How do I make more? It's a question that never ends, and it rarely, if ever, actually satisfies.
But when you finally start seeing money as a tool,
that question changes completely. You start asking, what problem out there is actually worth my time and effort to solve? Money then just becomes the resource you apply to that meaningful work.
And when you start asking that better question, you'll find something pretty incredible happens. The answers you discover don't just lead to money, they lead to purpose. And those are the answers that truly last.